Well, hello everybody, and a very warm welcome to this week's vlog. BBC Doctor Who releases to DVD has been the Patrick Troughton era story, The Ice Warriors, and I've been watching this and the special features that go with it, and I have to say it's really nice to sort of look at one of the old classic stories again, because although you know that they were possibly filmed on a considerably lower budget than the current series is, there's a lot of charm to be found in that, and it's particularly interesting because this is the first story that features the eponymous Ice Warriors, and those monsters go on to feature in the 2013 series and have been in the episode entitled Cold War alongside Matt Smith's 11th Doctor. Now, sadly, a lot of the footage from these stories from the first and second Doctors either got lost or misplaced or destroyed, back in the day. So what they've had to do is to recreate the episodes using animation, and it's quite good animation in the regard that it doesn't try and be too complicated. It sort of just matches the mood of what the original piece would have been like, and the pace, which was typically a bit slower. But obviously it got faster as the series advanced and became more modern, but back in the 60s things didn't happen very, very quickly in a Doctor Who story. So they've captured that with the animation. In fact, they said there's an interesting special feature in the DVD of how they did the animation. They said that was specifically the thing they were trying to get at, and I think they succeeded. But otherwise, it is nice to see Patrick Troughton and his rather sort of iconic cosmic hobo type second Doctor, in his sort of rather clown-like sort of persona, which I quite like. And there's a certain charm to him. He's like a clown crossed with a caring father figure who looks after his companions and gets generally quite cross with anyone who just won't listen to him. And one feels a bit sorry for him sometimes when the military types are all marching around and deciding what they're going to do, and the Doctor's just got the best advice ever and no one will listen to him, and then it's their own fault when they get in trouble. He did warn them. But anyway, if you are a Doctor Who fan like me and you like watching some of the classic Doctor Who stories from one of the best seasons of the early series of the 60s, then I do recommend that you get this one, The Ice Warriors, and enjoy a little bit of nostalgia. Speaking of nostalgia, we invested yesterday in a SodaStream. Yes, they do still make them, and I have to say the resulting drink is really nice. Now, I say drink, but what we actually bought, I'll show you the machine first. There it is, nice slimline bottle, and it came with a sampler set of all the different kind of soda flavours that you can make with the SodaStream, and this is it, all the way down there. It's the same height as the machine. So far I've tried the pink grapefruit variety, which is really nice, really refreshing, and actually also quite natural tasting as well. And it's so straightforward to use as well. It's like water plus CO2 plus then one of these concentrate sachets, or actually, to be fair, David's favourite, root beer concentrate, and then about an hour and a half to chill in the fridge, and you have a nice drink without having to go to the supermarket and buy it in a bottle. I'm not trying to sell it to you, I'm just saying they're very good, and it's nice to see this. When I was younger, I used to help out in my local church, and every Sunday morning, I'd go in early and wait for people to come in and set up the service and whatnot. Now, in one of the transepts of the church was a selection of jumble that was always brought out every year, the church fete. Now, what actually was among that jumble was anything and everything you can imagine hidden under one of the pews, but one of the things was an old SodaStream machine, and I remember I used to go up to it and push it and make it hiss. And it must have been the same gas canister that was in it for like years and years and years, because it hissed for a long time. Now I realise that one shouldn't waste that hiss, because if you use it properly, you can make a very refreshing beverage. It is nice to see that some things may evolve a little bit, but still never lose their popularity. And in fact, you can even get energy drinks now from the SodaStream. That is one of our samples, and when we get to it, it'll be interesting to see what it tastes like. And this is one of the beverages. This is pink grapefruit soda, made using the medium fizz option. It might be a little bit flat now because it's been sitting out for a while, but you get a generous 3 glasses of around this sort of size from just one SodaStream bottle. So apart from being quite tasty, it's also very good value for money, I have to say. Right then, here am I making American style meatloaf, and it's a recipe that just happens to include brown sugar. So I'm just opening the brown sugar, and I look on the back, and you know how often on the back of ingredient packets they have a recipe suggestions. Well, this one had a particularly exciting sounding one, but then when I think about the name, I'm not so sure I want it. Chocolate whoopie muffins. With a bit of business mixed in. Sorry if you're eating. The fact that they're going to end up looking brown just puts me off that a little bit more, although I'm sure if I followed the recipe they would taste nothing like whoopie. Not that I know what whoopie tastes like, having never sampled any. But there you are. If I was to say to you,
Yo, yo, home rain. Yo,
you might recognise that as a slightly obscure reference from the world of sci-fi, and specifically from the science fiction series known simply as Lexx, LE2X's. Now, I only saw this show for the first time at the University of Oxford. I belong to the Doctor Who Society, and they were sort of showing one-off episodes of other shows every so often to sort of break up the routine slightly. Now, Lexx was shown once, and at the time I thought it was quite sort of different and a bit far out and trippy, but I must confess I didn't watch an entire episode, and certainly not the whole of the opener, because I don't think that they showed the opening episode, so you don't get to know what the characters are really all about and such. Anywho, I have now restarted watching it again, and I have to say I really like it. I don't normally go in for fantasy, that's just me. Read into that how you like. No, I'm serious. Seriously, I don't go in for science fiction fantasy all that often. I tend to be more of a hard sci-fi person. However, Lexx I will make an exception for, because it's just brilliantly well done. To give you sort of a rough idea of the background, and this is very rough because I have only literally just started watching it, you have this parallel set of universes. One's called the universe of light, the other is called the universe of dark, funnily enough. And the universe of light is ruled by a rather powerful and not terrifically nice being known as his divine shadow. His divine shadow is something of a tyrannical dictator. Didn't quite as I meant it to. In other words, not a very nice person. So essentially, you end up with a ragtag bunch of completely unlikely characters. A grade 4 security guard by the name of Stanley Tweedle, a robot head called something like 7640, I think that's what it is. The last of the Brunn G, a guy called Kai, K-A-I, because I'm worth it, sorry, and who is basically a bit of a warrior with long floppy hair, and has this great battle song, which I opened for you with, and not that you could tell. And also there's a sex slave. Yes, there's a sex slave as well. So essentially it's completely far out, completely different, fresh and different and unusual in every way you can imagine. Not only though do the characters really stand out, but so does the story and the way it's kind of done. It verges in places on cat, has to be said, but the soundtrack that goes behind it is this thumpy kind of grungy, I'd almost call it cyberpunky sort of soundtrack, but it's truly brilliant, and the graphics, the visuals are very slightly reminiscent of Babylon 5 actually, but they're a little bit more kind of epic in some ways. And the overall package just works really well. you know how some stories are so far different from anything you've ever seen that they just suck you in? Well, Lexx is just such a story, and possibly the oddest thing about Lexx is the spaceship, because you know they end up running away and looking for a new home. The only difference though is that the spaceship they're in is alive. Not only is their spaceship a gigantic, somewhat slightly phallic-looking insect, but it can also destroy planets with its eyes. Oh yes. Little clouds of clusters of orangey things come out, and a big wave, known as a planar wave in the physics world, comes out and whacks its way through a planet, and kablast! There it goes, and there, Lexx eats the planet. Yeah, that really is what happens. Bizarre as it sounds though, it's brilliant when you see it on screen. It's like, wow, wish I did that in Star Trek, blowing up planets. Not that it's a very nice thing to do, but hey. Today we've come to Primm. If you've never heard of Primm, that's maybe not surprising, it's not quite so well known as Las Vegas. It's a little place right on the Nevada-California border, just before petrol prices go sky high, and it's all, but it has casinos and a fashion outlet mall, and we're about to check it out. Surprisingly, it doesn't look it from the interstate, but
wide.
Quite wide. Yeah, look. As you go
Right.
through, you can choose to. Theatre.
Its own cinema. And now for Whiskey Pete's. Thank you. Well, there's a car. Bonnie and Clyde death car. Well, thank you very much for watching. That's all we've got time for this week, but we'll be back again next week with more. So until then, have a good week. Hope the weather's nice for you and it doesn't rain like it's threatening to do now. We'll see you again next Monday. Bye for now.